right. Have you ever imagined waking up one morning like that and you're told there is no news, nothing to tell about from a virtual, any media organization you tune to? If you tune to ABS and other ones, you'll be told there won't be news today. Imagine that, and imagine today being United Nations Day for celebrating a day without news. What does it look like? What does it mean for us? What does it mean for our society? Is it even possible to have? This morning we are looking at promoting effective communication, and we'll also be putting that in mind. We have joined us in the studio Professor Cliff Nwanna, lecturer at Anambra University, Awka, to look at this topic with us.
Good morning.
We also have Professor Ngozi Chumu, the lecturer Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University, Igbari. I'm also here with us. Good morning.
Hello, viewer. Don't go away.
Are you still with me?
Yes, I am. And if you don't want to listen to us, to shut this place down, and make sure that you don't get any news. Okay, then join us, please.
All right. Continue joining us as we look at this very important day. What does it mean? Is it even possible to have a day without news? Prof, waking up one early in the morning, you tune to various media organizations, and what you are getting is that today there's no news.
You don't even get anything. The stations are not on.
I don't think
the
it's
stations
possible.
that are off.
It's not possible.
You want to run away.
No,
That's something
because,
that's happened.
Communication is as important as the oxygen we breathe. That is the essence of communication. It's indispensable.
Yeah.
All right.
Prof, you share the same view with him.
Oh, definitely. Communication is the bedrock of our lives, the bedrock of our interactions, our social interactions, even political. All aspects of life is embedded in communication. And when there is lack of communication at any level, it is real trouble.
So,
catastrophic.
when we talk about a day without news, just like you established, our topic says promoting effective communication. What are those things that necessitate this, what I call it, a delay in the real communication process that might lead to having that kind of day?
Actually, people often see communication from a parochial point of view. But communication is sharing of information, But on the primary basis, people understand it just you pass information, the sender and the receiver. But it's something you share. So when you see it from that point, you see that sometimes people communicate without even knowing.
Okay.
So that's why I said it's impossible to have a day that people will not communicate. There are a lot of signs and symbols all over us. All over our environment. They communicate things. It's not every mode of communication that is verbal. Some could just be signs. There are signs you see on your door. For instance, being an Igbo man, you get to your door, maybe you see red cloth tied on that door. You might be scared. You might not enter that room again.
Yeah.
So there are other ways that we come. That's why, let me just cut it short. It is impossible. Because we communicate without knowing. Communication goes with sharing of information. It is something participatory.
Yes, I actually like the angle you're coming from, because when we say without news or communication, some people will be thinking it's just for you to tune in your radio and listen to the news, or tune on the television and watch the news there. There are so many ways we communicate. There are traditional ways by which we communicate. Prof, I'm coming to you. Are those ones still existing, like what it used to be in the olden days, the way people communicate?
Because westernization has eroded our culture, they don't really exist that much in the urban areas. But when you get into the interiors, you will see some of these things still existing. That, like, if somebody does not want trespasses in a farmland, you see red cloth, red line, or the palm front. Yes, something like that. Or when you pass, when you pass by a sacred area, that's a sacred place, traditional sacred place, you see totems telling you that this is a no-go area. It still exists.
All right, let's look at effective communication. What are those things that in our present society that might disrupt the process, the interaction we're supposed to have? We just used the traditional means that we already have to effectively communicate to ourselves. But why, you also mentioned the issue of civilization. Why does it seem these things have disrupted our usual way of passing message? Someone that came into a new environment, where he sees this kind of signs, might not really be able to understand what that message is about. So what's the distortion? What has brought this change in the communication process?
You see, as I said before, globalization, westernization has done a lot of things to our lives. Now, we interact with television. Television is modulated by electricity. The telephone is also modulated by the web. So sometimes if a government or a particular group of people, for any reasons at whatever level, decides to disrupt communication in a particular area, it's just a matter of telling the televisions to shut down, telling the webmasters to shut down, such that the society, that particular area, community of people will be in darkness. That darkness is now modulated by inventions, which is not really what we used to have. In our traditional society, you can tell the town crier to go around and communicate with people that there is going to be an important thing. In a society, you may have a bell whereby if there is an emergency, the bell ringer will strike it and everybody in the community will know that something. Yes, or Yukoro, or Ekwe, something like that. But now, we have moved forward. The world is becoming a global village. So we want to watch the world from our homes. Now, somebody can decide that you will not watch the world today from your home by either switching off the electricity or telling the radio and TV stations to shut down. So, something like that. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, clearly. So, Prof, let me come to you also. In line with what you said, people controlling the media process. But do you think in the age of the internet that this is still possible? What has changed?
Let me take it from two perspectives. First is that people think of communication only from the point of freedom, like freedom of speech, can say anything, you know. But if you go down to section 39 of 1999 Constitution, duly amended, you know, it has given them that right, freedom of speech, press freedom, and so on and so forth. But there are checks and balances. There are other legislations, laws, like law of that kicks against defamation of character, where you have slander, you have libel, then you even have things like protection of intellectual property, and so on and so forth. So, and if you stretch it further, now, you know, as a society develops in any jurisdiction, then we also kind of bring out new laws. Now we are talking about hate speech.
Yeah.
So you don't just open your mouth and say whatever. So there are ways, these are ways we use the laws to control or kind of mitigate. That is.
Well, talking of hate speech, I think that we still need to draw a line between one expressing himself wholly, you understand, and then talking about something I don't like, and then you target hate speech. You understand what I mean?
I think we have a yardstick. Legally, it says how a right-thinking man will see it. How a right-thinking man will see that your speech. So there's a kind of let me say, check. There's a lot of, there's a kind of measure.
Prof is laughing. Perhaps you want to say something about it.
I just want to know the yardstick for measuring right thinking.
Who is thinking right and who is thinking
That's
wrong?
the issue. How will you convince me that I am not thinking right?
Yes.
And convince me also that he is thinking right. So that's just the issue.
Now, yet I can go on for that. If you think about the right thinking ban, in this sense, it means somebody who is not because he is a specialist. You know, maybe he's not the person must not be a psychologist or a jury, somebody in the legal system or so. An ordinary person. How an ordinary person will see it, who is not mentally challenged. Of course, we know people who are not mentally challenged. Even if you are, and the doctor says you are not, then you are not.
See, that's the issue.
So these are the...
Okay, bro.
Yes.
It's a very serious issue.
Yes.
You may want to say something before we continue.
You see, hate speech is something that politicians bring out when they want to stamp on some people's rights. I don't really believe that there is something like hate speech, because it must have pained somebody somehow for the person to speak anyhow. I don't know if you understand.
But there's still provisions when you speak against someone maliciously. When you come out in public and say unprintable words about person that might not even be substantiated, won't it be measured as hate speech, bro?
Okay.
Okay, like you say things that are not real or you cannot prove. That's where the court of the law comes in. You can now sue the person for libel. But you don't, until the court proves that those things are unprintable, that those things are lies, you can't term them hate speech.
Okay,
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, we do.
I say something out of...
Based on how I feel, or perhaps what
and
you
you
did to
term
me.
it hate speech. Take me to court. If I don't defend my words, that's the time you prove that it's... But when something is so hurtful to me that I have to speak out, and you've not really proved that those things are wrong, you have no rights to term them hate speech.
Okay, I was actually going to ask about news, because sometimes you wake up and maybe tune the radio or switch on your television. You hear a kind of news that you wish you never tuned in. You understand? And then one starts wondering, what is it that makes news actually? Is it only negative when there's war here, when there are killings, and when there's this and that? Negative, negative, negative. Can't good things make news?
Actually, everything we do now, most activities, has the mercantile side of it. That's the business side of it. Now, even when you now talk about news, some people set up, I believe most media organizations set up this apparatus to make money. And sometimes they do what I would call jankara. Sometimes they bring in falsehood, something that will tantalize people.
Not in a mainstream media. You may be talking about social media.
Yes. So they bring in some of these things, and people's attention will be arrested. Now, another thing is that, let me also put it this way. If we believe, like you said, that a human being will feel bad if you try to lower his integrity, that's defame that person, bring him to, lower his integrity before the eyes of the people and make him look criminal, people to hate him and so on. When we are saying that government is also an entity, you can also bring government to ridicule. That is one. Another thing to it is that you find there are people who have fiduciary relationship on others, like a pastor, like a lecturer. I have fiduciary relationship. My students believe me because of my position. If I now tell them, see, for instance, let me give you an example. You are not supposed to take this exam. They provided materials for the exam. The school authority embezzled it, and you're here suffering. They could go rampage. Have I not contributed?
Yes,
I incited them. So these are the things we are talking about.
Okay, let's see if anybody has joined us here.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Yes.
Good morning.
Morning, welcome. Thank you.
This is Engineer Anambra. I'm calling from outside this morning.
Okay, go on.
Okay. The topic is very, very interesting to promote effective communication. You see, in a society about it is very, very obvious that communication has been a problem. We need to do things. I don't like it to be something that is very, very serious. If a lecturer is living the real world life, and the particular of communication, sending it to students, he or she is lecturing and teaching. And if the leaders in the community or our society are not living what a life was of information,
All right.
communication,
John Paul, Engineer John Paul, we might not be able to take you to conclude. I think you've made a very powerful point there, airing your view. We no longer have time. We'll round up at this time. But I'll now throw these two questions to both of you. I want you to answer maybe in 30 seconds each so that we can go. Time is no longer on our side. We are going to the elections tomorrow. How do we ensure that people get the information they need properly to ensure that the ones that will bring violence do not spread tomorrow? Let's start from you, Professor Ude.
We have already had earfuls of information from the highest authorities that anybody who misbehaves will be shot aside. So we didn't drum it into anybody's ears again. Igbo Sena, Aga Karaka
Professor Wanda.
I think in this scenario, there's still a lot to be done because the social media, to some extent, does a lot of harm, good and bad. You know, Nigeria will still need to step up legislation, on how to not gag the social media, but at least to moderate things that China has done it. So it's not impossible in some other countries.
All right, thank you, Professor Cliff Nwanna of UNIZIK for joining us this morning, and Professor Ngozi Chumude of Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University, Bariam. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This is how far we would go on Good Morning Anambra this morning. Thanks for joining us. I am David Okwasile.
And my name is Sijama Uche. Remember to join us tomorrow morning on the election table.
My people, look here, face me like Facebook. I go see Lisa, and I go see a chameleon. Time don't come for us to wake up. My people, it's not time for action. Yeah. No more talk. We know how, leaders, we don't tire. This situation, we don't need to. Them say